Sarah Mitchell kneels on scorching Arizona asphalt, hands zip-tied behind her back, as Officer Derek Hawkins yanks her blonde hair and forces her face toward the gathering crowd. The metal bites into her wrists, but it's nothing compared to the burn of humiliation as strangers raise their phones to record her degradation. "Another privileged white woman thinking rules don't apply to her," Hawkins announces, his voice dripping with satisfaction as he upends her designer bag onto the ground. Lipstick rolls across the pavement, papers scatter in the desert wind, and among the debris, something metallic catches the harsh afternoon sun. A weathered Navy SEAL trident badge that makes everything stop. The crowd's murmur dies instantly. Hawkins freezes mid-mation. Even the desert wind seems to pause as recognition dawns on the nearest onlookers. Sarah's breathing remains perfectly controlled despite the humiliation. 4 counts in, 4 counts out, the same rhythm that kept her alive in Kandahar. She doesn't need to look at the badge to know every scratch on its surface, every dent that tells a story of sacrifice. Inside her mind, Sarah counts each second of this indignity, cataloging every detail for what will come next. Stay calm, count breaths. This isn't Helmand Province. You're not compromised. Let him dig his own grave. Every camera recording is evidence. Every witness matters. Pride heals, but dishonor doesn't. The asphalt burns through her jeans, but she's endured worse. Much worse. Her tactical assessment runs automatically. 3 officers present, 17 civilians in visual range, 4 phones actively recording, 2 security cameras on the checkpoint building. Officer Hawkins stands 6 feet 2 inches, favors his right leg from an old injury, holsters his weapon on his right hip with the retention strap loose. Sloppy. His partners, Martinez and Thompson, hover uncertainly behind him, their body language screaming discomfort with the escalation. The crowd grows larger by the second, drawn by the spectacle of a woman, forced to her knees in 115-degree heat. Some shake their heads in disgust at the officer's behavior, others simply record, and a few call out protests that Hawkins ignores. If you were humiliated like this in public, would you stay silent or fight back? Let me know where you're watching from. Sarah Mitchell drives her dusty Honda Civic along Route 89 toward Phoenix, every mile taking her further from the quiet life she's built in Flagstaff. Her blonde hair pulls back in a simple ponytail that emphasizes the sharp angles of her face, weathered by sun and secrets. She wears faded jeans and a plain white t-shirt, deliberately unremarkable, though the trained eye might notice how the fabric drapes over lean muscle. No jewelry adorns her fingers or wrists, but dog tags rest against her chest beneath the cotton, their weight a constant reminder of who she used to be. Her eyes check the mirrors with mechanical precision. Not paranoid, just tactical. A habit that 3 years of civilian life hasn't managed to break. At the last gas station, she positioned her car for quick exit without thinking about it, and in the roadside diner where she grabbed coffee, she automatically chose the seat facing the door with clear sightlines to both exits. The other patrons saw just another woman traveling alone, maybe heading to visit family or starting a new job somewhere. They didn't notice how she cataloged every person who entered, how her hand never strayed far from her keys, or how she moved with an economy of motion that spoke of years of training. In Flagstaff, she's Sarah the librarian, the quiet woman who helps veterans navigate VA paperwork and always has time to listen to their stories. Her neighbors know her as someone who keeps to herself but will shovel their driveways after snowstorms without being asked. The elderly veteran who lives 2 houses down suspects there's more to her story, something in the way she moves, the way she watches. But he respects her privacy as she respects his. None of them know about the nightmares that still wake her at 3 in the morning, reaching for an M4 rifle that isn't there. They don't see her map exit strategies in grocery stores or calculate fields of fire in parking lots. 3 years of invisible, 3 years of normal. Sarah the librarian doesn't have scars from Helmand, doesn't wake up tasting dust and blood, doesn't see threats in shadows. Keep the mask on. But beneath that carefully constructed facade lies Lieutenant Sarah "Ghost" Mitchell, the woman who made history in ways that will never appear in textbooks. 2019 feels like another lifetime, when she led SEAL Team 4 through the treacherous valleys of Helmand Province, earning her call sign through an uncanny ability to infiltrate anywhere unseen. She was the only woman to complete Bud/S Hell Week in her class, not because of any special accommodations but in spite of every attempt to wash her out. The instructors pushed her harder, held her to impossible standards, waiting for her to ring that bell and confirm their biases. Instead, she emerged from the surf torture and sand runs with steel in her spine and determination that made even seasoned SEALs take notice. Her specialty became high-value target extraction, slipping into compounds like smoke and emerging with objectives completed before anyone knew she was there. The silver star pinned to her dress uniform, now buried in that locked metal box, came from an operation where she saved her entire platoon from an ambush, carrying 2 wounded teammates while laying down suppressive fire that allowed the rest to reach safety. The incident that ended her career remains classified, buried under layers of bureaucracy and denial that would make most people lose faith in the system they served. Syria, a black operation that officially never happened, where her team was betrayed by a CIA liaison who sold their position for money that would never be spent. Sarah can still smell the copper tang of blood mixing with desert dust, hear the last words of her teammates as they fell one by one to an ambush that shouldn't have been possible. She alone survived, not through luck, but through skills honed to a razor's edge and a refusal to let their sacrifice be in vain. After eliminating the threat, including the liaison whose greed cost 12 good men their lives, she extracted a loan with critical intelligence that prevented a terrorist attack on American soil. Her reward was an unofficial retirement, a choice between keeping quiet or facing prosecution for a mission the government claimed never existed. They offered her money, a new identity, anything to buy her silence. She took nothing except the promise to leave her alone and the flag that draped her teammates' coffins. For 3 years she's lived under the radar, channeling her need to serve into quiet acts that honor her fallen brothers. Every month she sends anonymous donations to Gold Star families. She ghosts through VA hospitals, appearing when young veterans need someone who understands without explanation. Her library in Flagstaff has become an unofficial resource center for returning soldiers, though she's careful never to reveal how she knows exactly which forms they need, or why. She understands the weight behind their 1,000-yard stares. This trip to Phoenix isn't pleasure. It's another quiet mission to deliver cash to a veteran's family facing eviction, money that will appear as an administrative error correction in their favor. She could mail it, but some habits die hard, and she needs to see with her own eyes that help reaches those who need it. The Honda Civic is deliberately forgettable, Arizona plates properly registered, nothing to draw attention at checkpoints that have become increasingly aggressive in their searches. Checkpoint 19 has earned a reputation among locals as a place where constitutional rights go to die. Officer Derek Hawkins, 28 years old with the swagger of a high school quarterback who never quite made it further, sees Sarah's Arizona plates and notices she's alone. His eyes light up with the predatory gleam of someone who enjoys his power a little too much. "Step out of the vehicle, ma'am," he orders, though Sarah has already provided her license and registration without issue. She complies with calm precision, movements deliberately slow and non-threatening. What starts as standard procedure quickly turns hostile when she fails to show the fear or deference he expects. "You think you're better than me?" Hawkins demands when Sarah responds to his questions with quiet courtesy instead of nervous babbling. Her calmness infuriates him. She should be intimidated, should be apologizing for whatever imagined slight his ego has conjured. He searches her car with unnecessary roughness, tossing her belongings carelessly until his hands find the locked metal box secured under the passenger seat. "That's private property," Sarah states quietly, her voice carrying the same tone she might use to note that the sky is blue. Hawkins' face flushes red at what he perceives as defiance. "Nothing's private at my checkpoint, sweetheart. You got something to hide?" His hand hovers near his weapon, an unnecessary escalation that makes Sarah's tactical mind spin up, despite her efforts to remain in librarian mode. She calculates angles and distances automatically. 3 officers, 17 civilians now, 4 cameras visible, 2 more likely on the building. If this goes south, she could disarm him in 2 moves. But that's not who she's supposed to be anymore. Sarah the librarian doesn't think about strike zones and pressure points. She doesn't notice that Thompson's stance suggests military background, probably dishonorably discharged and compensating for it with a badge. She doesn't read Martinez's discomfort with the situation, or catalog it as potential leverage. Focus. "You're nobody, but these men dishonor the uniform they wear. And how many others have they done this to? How many veterans have stood here, been humiliated by those who should serve and protect?" Hawkins calls for backup like he's requesting air support in a combat zone, his voice carrying false urgency that brings officers Martinez and Thompson running. They arrive to find a calm woman standing beside her vehicle while their colleague works himself into a fury over her composure. Affluent women like you always think you're above the law, Hawkins spits, though nothing about Sarah's appearance suggests wealth. Always hiding something. Drugs? Money? Let's find out. He forces her out of the vehicle roughly, despite her complete compliance, shoving her against the hood while the crowd grows larger. Phones rise like weapons, recording every second of what's becoming a spectacle. Sarah maintains her tactical breathing, memorizing badge numbers and faces with the same precision she once used to memorize guard rotations in hostile territory. They dump her purse contents onto the ground with theatrical flair, mocking each ordinary item as if a wallet and chapstick are evidence of criminal intent. When they find the veteran's assistance pamphlets tucked into her bag, Hawkins holds them up like contraband. Playing soldier supporter? Let me guess, you've got a thing for broken heroes? The disrespect in his voice when he says broken heroes makes Sarah's jaw clench, the first crack in her calm facade. Thompson's stance shifts. Definitely former military, she confirms, reading his discomfort with mocking veterans. Martinez won't meet her eyes, following Hawkins' lead but clearly unhappy about it. These men who've never heard a shot fired in anger, never held a dying brother in their arms, never made impossible choices in impossible situations, dare to mock those who have. But it's Hawkins who concerns her most, a pure bully, the same type who hazed recruits until real leaders stopped him. How many veterans has he humiliated at this checkpoint? How many were too broken by their service to fight back? The thought burns like acid in her chest, but she maintains her exterior calm even as her internal temperature rises. "I need to speak with your supervisor," Sarah says when Hawkins demands she open the locked box, her voice still steady despite the fury building behind her eyes. "I am the supervisor here," he shouts, spittle flying from his lips. The crowd murmurs uneasily at his aggression, some calling out that this is excessive, but Hawkins is beyond caring about public opinion. He forcibly takes her keys from her hand, fumbling with the lock while Sarah stands perfectly still, every muscle coiled but controlled. The box opens to reveal military challenge coins, carefully wrapped in cloth, a folded flag in a triangle case, and documents marked with classification stamps that should make any law enforcement officer pause. Instead, Hawkins' face twists with contempt. What kind of stolen valor bullshit is this? He tosses the challenge coins onto the ground like trash, his boot coming dangerously close to stepping on them. You know what we do with people who pretend to be heroes? The zip ties come out before Sarah can respond, Hawkins wrenching her arms behind her back with unnecessary force. "On your knees until we sort this out," he commands, pressing down on her shoulder to force compliance. Sarah drops to her knees on the burning asphalt with controlled precision, her face betraying nothing even as the heat sears through her jeans. The other officers laugh, Thompson's laugh forced and uncomfortable, Martinez looking away, while the crowd films everything. One elderly man in the crowd wearing a Vietnam veteran cap looks deeply disturbed, his eyes fixed on the scattered challenge coins with recognition dawning. Sarah focuses on her breathing, on the count that's kept her alive through worse than this. 13 names are engraved on that flag in the box. 13 brothers who can't speak for themselves anymore. 13 heroes this badge-heavy bully is mocking with every word. The old Sarah would have dropped him in 2 moves, would have shown him what real warriors are capable of. But that Sarah died in Syria, buried with her team. Or did she? How many others have knelt here? How many were too broken to fight back? Have you ever been judged unfairly because of how you look? Share your story below. The asphalt burns like a branding iron, but Sarah has endured worse. Her mind drifts to another time she knelt in similar heat, not in humiliation but in honor, holding a dying Marine's hand in Kandahar while waiting for medevac that came too late. That Marine's sister probably drives through checkpoints like this, carrying her own grief, vulnerable to men like Hawkins who see weakness where they should see sacrifice. The sun beats down mercilessly, creating a shimmer effect that makes the scene feel surreal. Some in the crowd drift away, uncomfortable with witnessing such obvious abuse of power but unwilling to intervene. Others stay, phones steady, understanding they're documenting something that needs to be seen. Sarah counts the seconds, cataloging everything. The sweat dripping down Hawkins' face, the way Martinez keeps checking his phone, Thompson's increasing discomfort with the situation. Hawkins pauses in his theatrics, perhaps finally sensing the shifting mood of the crowd. "You know what? Maybe I'm being too hard on you." The words sound conciliatory, but Sarah recognizes the tone, the false mercy of a bully who wants his victim to feel grateful before he strikes again. The crowd relaxes slightly, some lowering their phones, thinking the situation is diffusing. Even Martinez looks relieved, his shoulders dropping from their tense position. Sarah remains perfectly still, knowing better than to trust this momentary reprieve. She's seen this tactic before in interrogation scenarios, the false kindness that precedes the real cruelty. But first, Hawkins continues, his voice taking on that predatory tone again. Let's verify these documents aren't forgeries. Can't be too careful with all the stolen valor cases these days. He pulls out his phone with theatrical importance, dialing Border Patrol's database division. Yeah, I need you to run a check on military records. Sarah Mitchell. The weight stretches like a blade being slowly drawn from its sheath. The sun continues its assault, turning the asphalt into a furnace that burns through Sarah's jeans. Sweat beads on her forehead, but she doesn't move to wipe it away, maintaining the same position she's held for nearly 20 minutes now. The crowd grows restless, some arguing among themselves about whether to intervene, others insisting on continuing to record. Parents pull their children away from the scene, unwilling to let them witness whatever comes next. Sarah's knees scream in protest, but she's endured worse. Stress positions in SEER training, hours of surveillance in hostile territory, the weight of wounded teammates across miles of rough terrain. Physical pain is just data, information to be processed and set aside. Thompson shifts his weight repeatedly, his discomfort now obvious to anyone watching. Even Hawkins seems uncertain, the phone pressed to his ear as he waits for information that's taking longer than expected. Sarah's mind processes the delay, understanding what's happening in some database far away. Her records aren't just classified, they're compartmentalized, requiring special access that a Border Patrol query won't immediately grant. Right now, someone is looking at a screen full of redactions and warning flags, probably calling their supervisor, who's calling their supervisor, creating a chain reaction that will eventually reach someone with the clearance to understand what they're looking at. She calculates the timeline. 15 minutes for the initial flag, another 10 for escalation, 5 more for someone at the Pentagon to realize what's happening. The elderly veteran in the crowd steps closer, tears forming in his eyes as he stares at her. His lips move silently, and Sarah reads the single word. Ghost? She doesn't respond, can't acknowledge it, but something in her eyes must confirm his suspicion, because he takes a sharp breath and steps back like he's seen a phantom. Hawkins' phone buzzes with an incoming call. His face shifts from smug satisfaction to confusion as he listens. That can't be right. Check again. His voice has lost its commanding tone, uncertainty creeping in like fog. The pause stretches longer this time, and everyone can see the color draining from his face. What do you mean classified? What do you mean, call the Pentagon? The words Pentagon makes the crowd stir with renewed interest. Martinez and Thompson exchange worried glances, their earlier amusement evaporating like water in the desert heat. Sarah closes her eyes for just a moment, allowing herself one breath of acceptance. 3 years of peace. 3 years of anonymity. It was worth it, this time of quiet service, of healing in the shadows. But all operations eventually reach their conclusion. And perhaps it's time for Ghost to step back into the light. When she opens her eyes, the elderly veteran has moved even closer, close enough that she can see the purple heart pin on his jacket, the weathered face of someone who understands sacrifice. But then Sarah notices something else. A young boy, maybe 8 years old, watching from behind his mother's legs. He wears a small pin on his jacket, "My Daddy Serves." His eyes are wide, with confusion and fear, watching a woman who looks like his teacher being treated like a criminal. In that moment, Sarah makes a decision, not for herself, but for that boy and every child who needs to believe that service means something. Her spine straightens imperceptibly, and for the first time since this began, a ghost of a smile touches her lips. She's been running from Ghost for 3 years, but maybe Ghost was never meant to die. Maybe she was just waiting for the right moment to rise. What would you have done in her shoes? Comment respect if this story moved you. The explosion happens all at once. Hawkins' phone erupting with calls, multiple lines lighting up simultaneously. Military vehicles screech into the checkpoint, not Border Patrol, but actual military police, in full tactical gear. Admiral James Crawford's voice booms from Hawkins's dropped phone. "Officer Hawkins, you have 5 seconds to release Lieutenant Mitchell before I have you arrested for assault on a decorated service member." The title Lieutenant ripples through the crowd like an electric shock. Hawkins stumbles backward, the box spilling its contents across the ground. The seal trident badge catches the sun like a star, the silver star tumbles free, and a photograph escapes. Sarah, in combat gear, surrounded by the soldiers whose lives she saved. The presidential unit citation rolls to the elderly veteran's feet. He picks it up with reverent hands, tears now flowing freely. "She's the ghost from Syria," someone shouts, phone swinging back up to capture this moment. Chief Walsh arrives just as the military police form a protective perimeter around Sarah. His tablet glows with her service record. Lieutenant Sarah Ghost, Mitchell, SEAL Team 4, Silver Star, Classified Operations, Protected Identity Program. The authentication floods through, Pentagon confirmation, DoD alerts, even CIA verification arriving with reluctant acknowledgement of her service. The crowd erupts with recognition and stories. "She saved my grandson's whole unit," Colonel Rivers shouts. More voices join. "She visited my brother at Walter Reed. She's the one who got those contractors out of Mosul." A master sergeant cuts Sarah's zip ties with practiced precision. She stands slowly, each movement now recognized as tactical grace rather than simple motion. Without speaking, she begins collecting the scattered items. The challenge coins are retrieved with reverence, the photograph cleaned of dust, and finally the sealed trident badge. She holds it up to the sun, studying it as if seeing it for the first time in years, then clips it to her shirt, visible, undeniable. The crowd falls silent as she finally speaks, her voice carrying despite its quiet tone. "Officer Hawkins' badge number is 2847. Martinez is 3921. Thompson is 4102. Each number drops with precision. Checkpoint Camera 3 has recorded everything since 1432 hours. The Veterans Legal Foundation will have my full report by tonight." Chief Walsh stammers apologies, but Sarah's attention has shifted to the elderly veteran. "Colonel Rivers," she says, recognizing him now. "Marcus made it home?" Rivers nods, voice thick with emotion. "Because of you. You carried him 2 miles through enemy fire while wounded yourself." He turns to the crowd. "She's why 13 families didn't get folded flags. Why my grandson is alive to see his children grow up." The young woman from earlier pushes forward. "Tyler Washington was my brother. You didn't just visit him at Walter Reed. You paid for his prosthetics when the VA failed him." More stories emerge, painting a picture of quiet service that continued long after her official discharge. Hawkins tries to slink away, but Sarah's voice stops him. "Officer Hawkins." He freezes as she continues. "You asked if I think I'm better than you. I don't. But I've fought for your right to be wrong. My brothers died for your freedom to dishonor your badge." She pauses, letting the weight settle. "Every veteran you've humiliated here, every abuse of power, it ends today. Not just for me, but for them." The cameras capture everything as federal agents take Hawkins into custody. Martinez drops to his knees, babbling apologies. Thompson simply walks away, badge abandoned on the ground. Within hours, Checkpoint 19 will be shut down permanently, the 3 officers facing federal charges, and a nationwide review of Border Patrol procedures will begin. But the most powerful moment comes when that young boy with the "My Daddy Serves" pin approaches Sarah. His mother tries to hold him back, but Sarah kneels to his level. "Is your daddy deployed?" she asks gently. The boy nods. "He's brave," Sarah tells him, "and when he comes home, he deserves respect. Always remember that." She unpins one of her challenge coins and places it in his small hand. "Give this to him. Tell him it's from someone who understands." The boy's face lights up with pride, and in that moment Sarah realizes this is why she couldn't stay hidden. Not for glory or recognition, but so children like him never have to see their heroes dishonored. Admiral Crawford offers military transport, media clamors for interviews, and officials promise investigations. Sarah refuses it all. "I just want to pass through like any other citizen," she states simply. She hands Colonel Rivers a card with just a phone number. "For any veteran who needs help. That's all I ever wanted, to keep serving them." As she repacks her belongings, the crowd parts respectfully. She walks to her Honda Civic and before entering, removes the trident badge from her shirt. She kisses it once, then tucks it away. The message is clear. This isn't who she needs to be every day. Only when honor demands it. Sarah drives through what remains of the checkpoint. In her rearview mirror, Hawkins in federal custody, veterans raising American flags where abuse once reigned, and that young boy still clutching her challenge coin. The radio explodes with coverage, but she turns it off. Her phone buzzes with a message from high command. "Ghost, we need you back." She reads it, considers, then types, "Not Ghost anymore, but Sarah Mitchell will always serve those who served." As her taillights disappear into the desert, she smiles, not because she won a confrontation, but because, somewhere, a deployed father will receive a challenge coin from his son, with a story about the day a real hero stood up for all of them. Some battles aren't fought with weapons. Some victories aren't measured in medals. Sometimes, the greatest service is simply refusing to let honor die on its knees in the desert sun. And Sarah Mitchell, librarian, veteran, protector of the forgotten, will keep that promise until her last breath. The desert highway stretches endlessly before her, but Sarah's mind remains at that checkpoint where everything changed. Not just for her, but for every veteran who will pass through any checkpoint in America from this day forward. By evening, the footage will have been viewed 50 million times. By morning, new federal policies will be drafted. By week's end, Checkpoint 19 will bear a memorial plaque in honor of all who served and were dishonored here. In honor of Checkpoint 19 will bear a plaque for all who served and were dishonored here. Never again. But Sarah won't see any of it. She'll be back at her library in Flagstaff, helping another veteran fill out forms, listening to another story of service and sacrifice. Because that's what ghosts do. They appear when needed, deliver justice, then fade back into the shadows where they can do the most good. The Trident badge sits heavy in her pocket, a reminder that some warriors never truly leave the battlefield. They just find new ways to fight for those who can no longer fight for themselves. And in a small apartment somewhere, a deployed soldier will receive a package from his son, containing a challenge coin and a story about a hero who knelt in the dust but rose like a phoenix when honor itself was at stake. That soldier will recognize the coin, will know the legend of Ghost, and will understand that his service matters. That someone stands watch for him, while he stands watch for America. Sarah Mitchell drives on, just another woman in a dusty Honda Civic, carrying secrets and scars and an unbreakable promise to the 13 names on a folded flag. The road ahead is long, but she's not running anymore. She's hunting. Hunting for every forgotten veteran, every abuse of power, every moment where she can make the difference between despair and hope. Ghost is dead. Long live Sarah Mitchell. Sarah Mitchell. And God help anyone who dishonors her brothers and sisters in arms again.